What's up? So today we got some new video where I will be reviewing Spider-Man No Way Home. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't watch the video as I did with my Venom 2 review and commentary. My review, not commentary. My commentary video are on my TV. I'm doing this on my bed. So yeah. So if you want to not be spoiled by Spider-Man No Way Home, do not watch this video because there will be a bunch of spoilers on Spider-Man No Way Home. I will give you how I liked it, how I felt the ending was, and yeah, so basically the movie starts off where the last Spider-Man is far from home, ended off with Mysterio revealing Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker. And Peter's, everyone around him's like, hey, is MJ your girlfriend? And he, swings. And we learn that Sally married Aunt May and Happy are no longer together. Were they like a fling in all this movie? So, yeah, so Peter tries to hide from the press, so he gets Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, to help him. Even though I have not seen the Daredevil franchise, this was a perfect cameo from Daredevil himself. So yeah, so they get, arrested, and we learn that Michelle Jones is actually Michelle Jones Watson. They could not keep that name to themselves. They had to have her name MJ Watson, just like Mary Jane. But so yeah, so Ned's like, he wants a lawyer, but they're kind of like the AMA. They're kind of like, how could you let your high school aged or graduate aged grandnephew put on a suit and fight crime as a vigilante? And she's like, she needs a lawyer. So yeah. So Spider-Man decides, so he goes and meets up with MJ, and he keeps getting each rejection letter, and yeah, so MJ, Ned, or Peter cannot get in college due to the world knowing he's Spider-Man. So to relieve his friend's disappointment, Peter goes to Doctor Strange to help, and he's like, and it seems like after 5 years, Wong became the Sorcerer Supreme. What? Wong? Really? Wong? You couldn't just keep it Doctor Strange? You had to give it to Wong. So yeah, so then he's like, hey, Steven, I need your help. When Mysterio reveals his identity to the world, his whole life got messed up, and now his colleges won't, and now his friends won't even go to his college. So yeah, so he's like, so he starts doing a spell, but then he's like, hey, this spell will make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and then Peter's like, wait a minute, are you saying that MJ will forget everything they've been through? And then he does it, oh yeah, your girlfriend won't be the only one, no. And he's like, what about Ned? He's like, okay, Ned. And he's like, what about Aunt May? He's like, Aunt May really should know. He's like, stop tampering with the spell, bro. And yeah, so it causes like a big explosion. And yeah, so yeah. So Peter calls Flash Thompson, who I don't like his hair in this movie. It's just yellow and black. Why? Did the actor change it? Like, or did they make him? I don't know. But yeah, so he's like, hey, if you help me, I will say you're my best friend, Flash. So yeah. So he goes to meet with the MIT recruiter, but who shows up? But Doc Ock. And he's like, Peter, what are you doing messing with my machine? What'd you do messing with my machine? And that we saw the end of Spider-Man, the same ring Spider-Man 2, and they get into a fight, but he takes some of Peter's and he's like, you're not Peter Parker. And Peter's like, I'm so confused. So was I, Peter. So was I, because it's so confusing. Didn't he die at the end of his movie? So yeah, so the MIT recruiter's like, hey, I'll look into you and your friends, becoming like going to her high school, so going to her MIT class. So they decide to go to help Doctor Strange, but they already have, he has Doc Ock, but he also has the Lizard, Kurt Connors, which also kind of makes sense, because wasn't Kurt Connors in jail at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man? Maybe he broke out, and Doc Ock and happened to catch, and Doctor Strange and happened to catch him in the sewers. So yeah, so then Peter's like, walking in his new black and gold suit when he ends up meeting with Jamie Foxx's Electro. But happily, they didn't make him the blue Electro that we saw at the end of, that we saw in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's the same color as Jamie Foxx, just with yellow lightning. And, but who shows up? Sandman, aka Thomas Hayden Church. I think that's his name. And if we're getting it wrong, tell me in the comments. But he saves them, and he's like, hey, Spider-Man. And they're like, you guys are in the wrong universe. And he's like, hey, universe. That's why I'm getting this. But who also showed up at that when Doc Ock was attacking? But Green Goblin, aka Willem Dafoe, who really is probably the best villain in this entire movie. So yeah, so Aunt May calls and she's like, hey Peter, one of your villains just showed up at my job. So Aunt May's like, Peter, we shouldn't send them back, we should help them. Yeah, so there's Doctor Strange captures Green Goblin, and now they have Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Lizard. We actually see the Lizard talk for once. So they actually explain that when they were fighting Spider-Man, they were about to kill him and then they just ended up there, which is interesting because I guess that's how they ended up in this movie. So yeah, I guess that's how they ended up in this movie. There are some jump scare scenes, just like in every Spider-Man movie, that scared me when I saw it yesterday in the theater. But I say in the theater. So yeah, there's a lot of jump scare scenes, like Doc Ock jump scares me. So yeah, so he's like, hey, I'm gonna create a device that will send all the people back from where they came from. Peter's like, no, and has a battle with Doctor Strange. We even see a little Liz cameo in a magazine, not her appearing in the movie. Sad. We could have got her, if they actually got her in the movie, we could have got Peter's former love interest, meeting his new love interest. Actually, he already kind of knew, not meeting, he already knew Mary. What am I saying? He already knew MJ from the debate team. What am I saying? Meeting. He already knew her from the other movie, from the Homecoming. Why am I saying meeting? They already met. Anyway, so yeah, but it would have been cool to see like her find out that he's Spider-Man. Her be mad at him because she could have been like, oh, you sent her dad to jail and had to have her move away. And it would have been cool to get her in this movie to see like, how she coped with Peter being Spider-Man, but sadly, all we get of Liz is a magazine. Sad. This movie could have, like she could have saw the news report. Mysterio revealing that Peter is Spider-Man and revealing and her thinking that Spider-Man is the reason why her dad's in prison. But we all know he gets out because of Mobius and all that. Is it called Mobius or Morbius? Yeah, it's Morbius. Mobius is someone else. It's Morbius. Mobius is someone else. It's Morbius. So, yeah, so back to the movie. Peter and Doctor Strange fight. But Peter uses math. Yeah, Peter uses math, everybody, to figure this out. He uses math. And he lets Doctor Strange, stay there. He releases the other villains and creates a new chip for, what's his name? Creates a new chip for Doc Ock. I almost forgot. That turns him back to the kindly Doc Ock we saw in the Raimi Spider-Man 2 film. But who's been faking being good this entire time? Norman Osborn, because Green Goblin has been taken. He's been in control of him the entire time. And I love Norman's. I love Willem Dafoe's his Goblin persona, because his voice is just so right. He's like, "Come on, Spider-Man." I know I do a very good voice, but yeah. So he's like, "Oh yeah, Norman Osborn, totally pretending to be a good guy and all this stuff." Yeah, I do a very good voice. I know. So yeah. They get into a fight. They get into a fight. But Aunt May says, with great power comes great responsibility, as Green Goblin kills Aunt May. Hot Aunt May, I know. Not saying hot. She's not hot. I'm just saying that's what people call her. Hot Aunt May, or as Prince Bean calls her, Hot Aunt May is dead. They just killed Aunt May because she said, with great power comes great responsibility. And as we know, that's the same line that Uncle Ben used before he died. And they use it with Aunt May. And Aunt May is just like, let her just catch her breath, as unfortunately Aunt May dies. Sad, right? I was not expecting Aunt May to die in this movie. And Peter is just sitting alone, just minding his own business, hearing the world call him hearing J. Jonah Jameson call him a man, saying that how he brings destruction and all that. So Ned So the villains just leave, they just don't show up until the final act. So Ned and MJ, who I'm going to call MJ, I'm not going to call her Michelle Jones Watson, I don't know why. MJ are just hanging out when they're like, "Hey, find Peter Parker." And a portal opens. And whose is that? But Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. Yeah. And Andrew Garfield. Woof. Andrew Garfield faint. It's Andrew Garfield, everybody. I was not expecting this. They kept saying how they weren't in this movie. How they kept saying how they were not involved with it. But then, yeah, so Ned's grandma just gets him to catch a cobweb, and he's like, "Find Peter Parker." And who shows up but Tobey Maguire Peter. Tobey Maguire Peter. Yeah. And he's just like, "Oh yeah." And he's just like, "Oh yeah," he witnessed, he sensed Peter. He sends Tom Holland. I'm just gonna call him Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, because it's just so weird to call. He sent Tom Holland's Peter, and he knows where he is. And they're like, so they hug him, and they're like, and they mention about how Uncle Ben said great power comes great responsibility, and he died, and then Andrew Garfield, and then Spider-Man, and then Tobey just went after revenge and just wanted to kill Uncle Ben's killer. And then Andrew Garfield mentioned he mentioned when Gwen Stacy died, and how he was so filled with rage and anger, he didn't throw punches, he was being Spider-Man out of anger and rage. Too bad we couldn't see this though, and Spider-Man 3 never happened. So yeah, so they said with great powers comes great responsibility. His peer said that. We all know what Andrew's peer said. He said is that his father lives by a philosophy, a principle, really. A principle is that when you do good things, you're obligated to do those things. That's what's at stake here. Not choice, responsibility. And that kind of still sticks to with great power comes great responsibility. So, yeah, so they basically become best friends. And Peter's like, he just wants to kill Green Goblin for killing Aunt May. So yeah, so they have a fight. For some reason, Tobey Maguire fights Lesnar, even though without not knowing him. And it's just like, without knowing him. And Andrew Garfield fights Electro. And then when he reveals himself, Electro kind of says, I thought you'd be a Black Spider-Man, Andrew. Because we need Black Spider-Man. Miles Morales. Max Dillon, if you're looking for a Black Spider-Man, you better look for Miles Morales. So yeah, so they fight. Tobey introduces himself again to Doc Ock. They reconnect, and yeah, then they turn Kurt Connor. They cure Doc Ock. They cure Sandman. They cure Lizard, even though he turns back to a CGI version of Dr. Connor. And then they turn Sandman out normal, and he turns into a probably reused version of his Spider-Man 3 self, which kind of let down that they couldn't get these actors to appear in the movie. So they reused them with CGI or reused scenes from the previous Spider-Man movies, I'm guessing. So yeah, so Max Dillon and they're all redeemed, but now it's time for Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin, and yeah, so while it's happening, Doctor Strange is revealed that the multiverse is shattering because more people are coming through, and then more people are coming through. He's trying to stop this with his powers. He's trying to stop this, and then Peter fights Green Goblin, beating him up. But then who shows up? But Tobey Maguire trying to stop Peter from killing Green Goblin. But then Green Goblin just stabs Tobey Maguire, and we're gonna think, oh no, it's Tobey dead? But Tobey's like, he's been stabbed before. It's no big deal. I love Tobey Maguire. I hope he comes back for another film. So yeah, so Peter's like, hey, to stop this, he has to make the world forget Peter Parker. And he's like, no, that can't happen. But he's like, it's the only choice. So they're like, hey, so he's like, see you around. So see ya, goodbye, Spider-Man. And they have a good, so he's like, hey, goodbye. And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, he's gonna make the world forget about Peter Parker. And she's like, when you find me again, make sure I find your Spider-Man again. And yeah, and Tobey disappears, all the villains disappear, and then we go into a no one knows Peter Parker timeline. So yeah, so Peter's going to where MJ works, trying to work himself up to get them to be friends again, because he created a new universe where no one knows Peter Parker. So he's trying to, but he sees her scar. So he's like, hey, he's Peter Parker. And she's like, hey, Peter Parker. And yeah, he's like, and she sees the Band-Aid on, and he's like, and she's like, that on, and he's like, yeah. So I guess this is Peter saying he doesn't want to get them into any more trouble. So he goes to Aunt May's grave, and he meets Happy. So obviously Happy doesn't know Peter. He just knows Aunt May from Spider-Man, and Peter just goes without saying he knows Aunt May from Spider-Man. And I just don't like this ending. I'm not a big fan of this one. I just feel like resetting the whole point of the movie. Like, they know about the events of the two movies, but they don't remember Peter Parker being Spider-Man. So they know about him beating Mysterio. They know about him beating the Vulture. They know probably about the whole Endgame stuff and Infinity War stuff, but they don't remember Peter Parker being involved with it. Which I don't like this ending at all. If this is ending, I don't know where the movie's going to go with this, obviously. If they're going to forget about this in the second movie, if they're going to have them remember it. I don't know. But for now, I'm just not a big fan of this ending. And I may change my mind, but for now, on this review, I'm saying this ending is not my favorite. So Peter goes to his crappy apartment, which he also had, which Tobey Maguire had, and we see a textbook for high school. Since no one knows Peter Parker, they don't know his grades and they don't know his accomplishments in high school. So I guess Peter Parker is gonna have to restart in high school, and then he swings around the sea to end this movie. But then we get a post-credit scene to Venom of all things, because remember at the end of Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, Venom and Eddie were affected by the Spider-Man shenanigans, and Venom was like, that guy, and look, the TV. But in this movie, he's talking to a bar guy, trying to explain to him like about Hulk and about Thanos, until he gets affected, going back to his own universe, and a little bit of symbiote is left behind. But we don't get a second post-credit scene, because the second post-credit scene is just a trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Okay, so that was Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. This may be my favorite Spider-Man movie. I have been doing reviews for Spider-Man movies ever since Venom, in this Marvel Universe, ever since Venom 2. I had planned to do the movies as I was rewatching them, but I never did it. But so I love this movie. I love it. I don't get why they couldn't have Hayden Church as Sandman for the entire movie, only until Peter came, and then they had him go back to being human. Why was he, like, as my bro Chan said, does that mean that Spider-Man, the other movies, never happened in this universe? If they're making it like Peter Parker this version of Peter Parker, no one remembers him, that means people know about the events of the movie. They just don't know that Peter Parker was involved with them, because they wouldn't know who Peter Parker is. Also, I love the suit that he wears in this movie, how it's an integration of his suit that he was wearing and his Iron Spider suit. So, yeah. So that was Spider-Man No Way Home. I want to say Far From Home. No Way Home. I love this movie. I'm just kind of controversial on the ending, though. I don't know how I feel about it. Peter, I get it. Peter wants to protect his friends. Peter wants to protect his friend by not telling them who he was so they wouldn't be in danger. But I just, like, why have that happen? I get it. If he hadn't done that, none of the bad guys that were coming through, they would come through and they would have been more in danger. They would have been more in danger than ever. But the ending where Peter's just like, if they just forgot he's Spider-Man and not forgotten him, maybe he could have told them and that would have happened. But no, he's now, the entire world has forgotten Peter Parker in the Spider-Man alley. So Peter Parker doesn't exist now, and Peter's just fine with it, saying they're better off not knowing that he's Spider-Man because it protects them. No, no. No, I get you want to protect your friends. I get you want to do that, Peter, but I don't agree with your choice. Like, okay, MJ getting beaten up. We don't know how she got beat up. Probably from her father or something, or from somewhere. But Peter thinks just like MJ would have gotten beaten up anyway if she knew he was Spider-Man or not. So Peter Parker, this was a wrong decision, and this is a controversial ending. I know. The last movie was shocking, and I agree with the shockingness, but this movie the ending just doesn't make any sense to me, and I hope you guys can understand why I'm not okay with this ending, why I prefer a better ending to to this movie. Like, and they end with him swinging. Like, guess what staple of every Spider-Man movie? At the end of every movie, they have to have Spider-Man swinging. Like, first one had Ant-Man review Spider-Man, next one has the world review Spider-Man, and now this movie just ends with him swinging. Like, not seeing this movie, I love this movie. Spider-Man No Way Home is my favorite Spider-Man movie ever. I just do not agree with the ending. The ending is not one of my favorites. The ending is not a good ending. I'm sorry if you guys can say, oh, this ending was actually good. But to me, it just, I get it. If Peter hadn't, I get why they did this. Because if Peter hadn't done this, it would have sent every villain or any villain from the multiverse to attack him and injure his friends and kill his friends. I get why he did this, but it just makes no sense. He thinks they're better off than knowing he's Spider-Man. They could get injured at any point, Peter. Like, Peter doesn't realize this. Oh, I'd be thinking, oh, they're injured. It's a tough world out there. They're injured whether he knows or he doesn't know he's Spider-Man. They're injured either way. They probably get hurt by someone else. But not knowing he's Spider-Man is the best decision for me. Okay, I'm just gonna leave and not have MJ find out he's Spider-Man because he thinks it's a great decision. But anyway, that wraps up this review. I'll see you next time for another review of an MCU movie or anything I do on this channel. But remember to watch out and have a spider-tastic day.